Welcome to Simsbury Town News. My name is Dominique Avery. Uncharacteristically, Simsbury has been in the news quite frequently lately for a few positive reasons as well as some far less positive ones, including the fact that someone involved in the Ukraine scandal makes his home here. But I don't recall seeing anything about our topic for today, a good news story about a new agreement that the town has reached with the Gifts of Love Farm. Here to talk about the agreement and what it means are First Selectman Eric Wellman, Tom Roy, the Town Public Works Director, and Susan Pribyson, Executive Director of Gifts of Love. Welcome to all of you. I'm so glad you're here. So, Eric, I think I'm going to turn to you first and ask you if you would talk a little bit about this new agreement that you've reached. It's a complicated story, so I want to start on history. It goes way back.
Yeah, it starts 99 years before I was born, to be precise, in the year 1883, with one of Simsbury's most famous families actually named after the building that we're sitting in right now, Eno Hall. Amos Eno, a real estate magnate and Simsbury resident, donated what became the community farm to the town of Simsbury to serve the benefit of the poor.
So for a while, it was a community farm. People lived there.
Back in it used to be, those without jobs, we would today refer to as homeless people. They would go to the farm, they'd be able to work, they had housing there for them. And over time, it evolved into what we have now today. And I think, again, many people in town would remember it as Town Farm Dairy, which I think it was from the 1970s right up into the early 2000s. So.
When I moved here in 1990, it was Town Farm Dairy, and it was that for quite a while. I think I'm not sure. I'm not sure when it actually became a farm. The dairy closed in 2008, perhaps.
Yeah,
that's
the year, I believe.
Yep.
So, Tom, you told me that you have been involved with the community farm for a very long time, and you know more about it than anybody I've ever talked to. So tell me when you got involved and how you got involved.
Well, actually, it was interesting. Right when I was coming to work for the town of Simsbury, it was right after the Town Farm Dairy had closed. There had been an unfortunate incident with some milk that was contaminated, and there were some concerns about the risk associated with having an active dairy farm at the time. The political leadership in town saw the opportunity. We actually issued a request for proposals. We looked for different people who could run the farm, and we were looking for somebody who could not only run the farm, but could add that educational component and bring the community in. After interviewing a few different interested parties, the community farm was born. Diane Nash and Dunny Barney were instrumental in that at the time. The town worked with them to get it up and running. They hired an executive director. A few years later, I think they did a wonderful job, and they updated the classroom with some large grants from the Hartford Foundation of Public Giving. And I think over time, it evolved to where the Gifts of Love was able to move in, and the two operations seemed to work very well together. And I think it's been a good benefit to the town.
So what is actually there now? I know the tourism committee has met there several times in the classroom over the years because we like to move around and see what's going on. What is at the farm now? Susan, jump in, or Eric, or anybody.
Well, coming up this year.
Well, let's talk about the buildings first before the
buildings.
program.
I'm sorry, did not understand your question.
I didn't make it clear. Okay. So what are the buildings? What is there? There's a barn?
There's a classroom? Two barns, actually. There's the older barn that has the animals, and above, which is not currently used, but it was the hay loft. You have the building which actually used to be the milk processing building, which was renovated into the classroom. There's a couple of smaller outbuildings for the animals. There's the Eno farmhouse, which is still used as the residence for the farmer. The caretaker. And adjacent to the farm, it's still on the farm property, we have a duplex, which is actually low-income rentals that the town manages separate from the farm.
So in the main building?
As you approach the farm, one of the buildings is separate. It's a duplex where there's two rental units for families to use.
Oh, I didn't know that. And when there was a farm director, where did they live?
Right there in that separate farmhouse.
In that White House.
Right, exactly.
And is there anybody there now?
Yes, our farmer lives there.
Oh, okay.
And I was going to say, in addition to that, there is a greenhouse, 3 high tunnels, and a solar panel that have all been added over the last couple of years.
So it was the community farm run by a group of people. Ethel Walker School, I think, was involved.
There was a number of different people, right?
And it became the community farm rather than the dairy, or before that, the poor farm. And then Gifts of Love got involved. How did that happen?
It was a merger with the community farm of Simsbury, and they merged because of the similar missions, which Eric already talked about. The mission helping people who don't have food could come on and take care of their families. And Gifts of Love for 30 years, that actually originated in Simsbury, helps people who are temporarily in a financial crisis. They are employed, but they are in a temporary financial crisis. So we provide different services for them. And by merging with the farm, we are able to get fresh organic produce out into our food pantry. But we also, in keeping with the deed, we also provide 20% of what we grow comes to Simsbury Social Services.
So Gifts of Love started in Simsbury?
Yes, it did.
Oh, where?
30 years ago. In a house actually across from the high school. And it was the late 1980s, and a woman noticed, people, their jobs were getting downsized and they were struggling. And so she started collecting items in her garage, and then the volunteers would go out and deliver them to the families
How
and give
interesting.
them help. And that's still what we do today, except we don't deliver anymore. They come to the office to get services.
And when did you move to Avon, to your location?
The one that we're in now,
Yeah.
we actually...
The old yarn shop.
And yes, we've been there since 2013.
So the impetus for this program, Eric, was that there is a new lease agreement with the Gifts of Love. And the news release said we updated the lease on the farm to broaden the scope of the educational programs that Gifts of Love can offer. What does that mean?
Oh, well, that's exactly what we've been talking about here. So because of the deed.
Yeah, so I want to know, why did you have to broaden the lease?
The town went to the state attorney general and needed to get the use of the farm approved through that office. And that office has interpreted the deed in different ways over the years. And most recently it was interpreted that some level of educational programming needs to be provided, which is why we had to revise our lease with Gifts of Love.
So
That's a wonkier answer than you were looking for.
No, I was actually looking for an even wonkier answer. Did you have to hire attorneys? Did this
Well,
cost?
we had to go through the town
Right.
attorney, and he had
Right.
to run it by the state attorney.
So
Yeah.
how does it fit into the original deed that Amos Enos
Yeah.
left?
So when you think about the intent of the original deed, it was to help people who don't have food or who are food insecure, and that's exactly how this land is being used now. For me personally, just speaking, this is Eric's opinion, there's nothing legal here, I'm really thrilled that they're broadening the scope of their educational programming, because I think that the food that they provide our residents through social services is phenomenal. But to the extent that we can engage the broader community in farming, and Simsbury has a rich history in farming, I think is all the better.
So I think if you think about, you mentioned the homeless in the beginning. If you think about this, it would make so much sense. For instance, in California, where they have a huge homeless problem, where they can't afford around San Francisco, and they have farms. I don't know. Isn't there a way they could start figuring that out? You should sell your idea, or promote your idea.
Right.
They need real estate magnates to donate the land for that specific
That's true.
purpose. That's
Right.
what, yeah.
But they do have farms, and they do farm there, and they
Yes.
hire people to work the fields, and they could hire and house some of the homeless too. Tom, you've been very quiet, but you know a lot about the farm. So you actually don't have anything to do with it now, but tell me some of the things that you
Well, right
did
now,
then.
in some ways, my role is when the farm has a new project that they were going to build, when the farm has a problem or a challenge, in some ways, I for the town, represent the lease. So Susan or the representative farmers out there, if something's wrong with the barn, if a couple years ago we had to redo the parking lots, things like that fall under my role here within Public Works, and kind of be the go-between between the farm and
Because it's
the
actually
town.
owned by the town.
That is
Yes,
correct.
right.
And we do have some responsibilities, and we have to make sure that everything they do is in accordance with both the lease and the overall intent of where we want to be.
So how often do you, how much, I mean, in the winter you take care of snow plowing. How much work do you actually have to do there in the farms in the summer? How much
Well,
stress is it on the public works department?
I would say it's
So
not, it's
they
not
don't
all
do the plowing.
Yeah, we don't actually.
That would
yeah.
be lovely.
I know it would.
I meant
I'm
meant
kidding,
snow
I'm
plowing,
kidding.
but
No, no,
actually that's actually funny.
Yeah, it's more in terms of the same way we run a couple of different leases and things through other properties. It's making sure that we uphold our end and make sure that they have what they need, that the buildings are in a state of good repair. From time to time, we've had issues with the well and city water and how we're going to do things like irrigation. And we try to just be a resource to make sure that the farm's as successful as it can be.
So now to what's going to go on this summer. I know you talked a lot about it before, Susan, but let's talk about some of the differences. You can start again with a CSA, explain what a CSA is, and explain what you want to do with the, what's the word for, you're going to sell on the site. You're going to
Farm
have
stand.
a farm stand.
Farm
Yes,
stand.
thank you.
No. A CSA is a community share of agriculture, and you would buy that in advance and come and pick up for 20 weeks. Our pickup day was on Friday. Whatever was in season on the farm. And actually there's been quite a bit of press about how CSAs have been dwindling throughout the state of Connecticut. So we're going to switch to a farm stand where people have more of a choice in what they're purchasing. And we're also focusing on growing what people tell us they would like to eat. In the past, we would do things like 9 different peppers, and we wanted to introduce different things to people. But we're listening to the community, and that's not what they would like. They would like your standard recognizable produce that you would go and buy at Fitzgerald's, and so we're going to give them what they want.
Is it going to be on an honor system, or are you going to have somebody there?
No, somebody will be there, and we have also applied so that if you have SNAP benefits, you can come and get fresh organic produce.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that sounds, and I actually think it's probably a very smart idea not to do the CSA, because you do end up with a lot of things, and unless you're a very creative cook and have a lot of time,
Exactly.
you don't always know what to
Right.
do with the stuff that
Right.
you get. I certainly wouldn't.
My wife and I did a CSA. We used a friend's CSA, and we had, Google was our friend.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we didn't even know what part of the plant to use.
I think you had some unusual eggplant in the last couple of years. and-
Yes,
Yep.
we've had some unusual, and a lot of times people don't know what kohlrabi is, and they get it and they like, what is this? How do I cook it? And but that's another thing that we're going to be introducing is actually cooking sessions,
was
educational
just about
cooking
to say-
sessions.
You know what? So many young people these days are looking up sort of a meal where you can tell them exactly what they need and what they need to buy, and provide them with a recipe. So
Right.
you could actually do that too.
Well, I don't know. Maybe we can get SCTV out there. You can make it a whole cooking show.
Yeah, we don't have. We could do a cooking show here if we had a kitchen, but we don't. Some of the other differences. I'm wondering whether you're still going to have the farm to table dinners.
We are still going to have the farm to table dinners. We are. And we have a organization, the Z Catering Group, is going to be doing things like bridal showers and rehearsal dinners, using the pavilion for that. I mean, we refer to the farm as an educational setting for enhancement of the community. And so we want to get as many different types of groups out there so that people know we're there and want to come back and use it.
And just describe the kinds of things that we'll see now at the
Well,
Gifts of Love Farm.
One thing that's always been there and went on even when camp was there is that the farm, we have a farm manager, and all the farming is done by volunteers. And they come in from different corporations. And it could be a group of 3 to a group of 40.
I didn't know that.
And they come out and they learn all about the farm. They learn about the history of the farm, and then they get taught to either plant or harvest or weed. So there's different activities. So they're learning about farming, and it's actually a team building day
So-
for the organization.
So are these corporations in Hartford, or?
All over, several in Simsbury, Hartford, different areas.
And how does that actually work? One day or a week? Or
They come out for one day usually, and they coordinate. They coordinate with our volunteer coordinator, Nancy Carlson, and we have a list of them. It's been going on for quite some time, and they start calling. We've already lined up people for the summer,
I had no idea.
and otherwise we could not farm the land out there.
Right, I had no idea who was doing that. So
It's great. They love it. They have a really great time when they're
So
out
tell
there.
tell me what else you've been doing and what else is new.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned, the community gardens, that will be new. That will be bringing people out there. We want to continue with the school trips, but I don't think that will be happening in the summertime. The Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts have campouts during the summer, and that will continue. I'm trying to think what else. The
And now
Yukon
that-
Education Series.
Okay, and the campouts had been in the lower field. Are you
Yes.
going to have to move the campouts to the other side, or?
No, that's the middle field is where they have it, and the gardens will be in the next field down.
Okay.
So what should people in the community in Simsbury be looking for this summer? Should they go up to Wolcott? Tell them where it is. I bet there are people who don't know where it is. even.
Absolutely, there are. It's on 73 Wolcott Road in Simsbury, right near the fly-in, the Simsbury Airport.
Or the town dump.
Yes, or
The
the town
transfer
dump.
station.
Yes.
The transfer station.
Excuse me.
I feel a
The
little
old, the old town dump, now transfer station.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's on the right-hand side, and you're on the left-hand side.
No, we're on both sides of the road,
Right.
and
That's true.
we
But the,
we have
the
farmland
farmhouse is
all
on
the way down to the river.
Really?
Yes, we do. The farm is 77 acres, and we're currently farming 7.5. But we received a grant from the state this winter and have removed trees so that we have more farmable land.
Interesting. So that brings up a subject. I know that the deed doesn't allow this, but somebody the other day was telling me what a shame it is that we have nothing on the river where you can have, you can go to a restaurant and sit and eat along the river. Is that because why is that? This is off subject. But
I don't know. I enjoy going to
floodplain.
Floodplain.
That's what
Oh, yeah,
that was
yeah,
my
yeah.
answer. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I was going to say that it's not on the Farmington, but Millwrights is on Hop Road
Yes, it is.
Oh,
on
right.
Hop Road,
Riverview.
right.
and
Yes,
Riverview. of
Riverview.
course.
But
Yes.
here we have this whole town
Yeah.
along this beautiful river, and aside from the Bridge of Flowers and maybe Curtis Field, there's no access to it, and it's really such a shame. But yeah, my answer to this person was floodplain.
Yeah.
It's all in the floodplain.
Right.
So what can, aside from knowing where it is and maybe going to the farm stand and maybe participating with a corporation in plowing, what else can the community
Well,
do?
they can offer to volunteer. It doesn't have to be corporations. We do have different groups that just volunteer on a regular basis, that come in and just love to farm. We have somebody that we're talking to next week that wants to come out every weekend and help with the farming. That'd be great. But they can also participate in the education series or offer one themselves.
So the education series, are you talking about something that would happen in the classroom building?
Yes, in the classroom building.
And what kinds of things?
We have the cooking classes. Last year we had a paint night, which we'll do again, and the Yukon Agricultural School is also going to be running a series of education, which they've done for years. And then there was a question if they would get the federal funding again, but they have, so we'll be restarting that.
Has anybody approached you about doing something special for the 350th anniversary celebration?
Yes, we have talked with the town tourism, and we were involved in the meetings for a while, but then it changed to leadership, and you have to be a Simsbury resident to participate, and so I don't qualify.
Oh, so you can't participate.
Sorry, no, I can't participate. But we're hoping that the town will be involved. Absolutely. I mean, it's an important part of the history.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and the farm's been there for quite a bit of our history
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Well, and I would think if the committee or the farm had something between all of us, we could make it work.
That's true. Yeah, so it's not really the tourism committee. There is a 350th special
Right.
committee
Right.
that's working on this rather
Right.
than, we could talk about tourism too if you wanted.
Yeah, let's do it, Dominique.
And tourism funding. No, we're not going to go there. But I'm now sort of out of my questions, and so if there's stuff that I'm missing, please let me know. Stories about the farm?
There's always good stories about farm. I think that the neat thing is it's a real asset to the town. You know, there's so many farms in Simsbury that you can drive by and you see them. There's farms you can stop by and see the farm stand, but this is a farm where you can not just be part of the farm stand, you can get in and get involved. And I think so often now we have especially younger kids who aren't getting that experience of getting their hands dirty and really seeing, you know, the connection between the seeds to the salad plate and what they're eating for dinner. And I think it's a real opportunity for people in town. And you didn't mention that there's also the chance to donate if they really have a good time at the farm.
Absolutely, yes.
Well, it's interesting that we do have a private farm, Flammick Farm, that does something very similar, where
Yes.
they do have a camp and they do involve people in educational, and they open their farm. So I think it's interesting that Simsbury was a farming community, and it still remains that way, and that's due to the foresight of some people all through the years. Amos Eno in the first place, and then the town, and various arrangements that have been made to purchase the land so it will not be sold for development. And it makes our community, I'm speaking as a chair of the tourism committee, a very attractive community to visit and hike in and go to farms and things.
Yeah, I completely agree. We find that farms increasingly need other revenue streams aside from the core business of farming. So you see, they turn into wedding venues, among other things. And one of the things that our zoning commission is doing is a comprehensive rewrite of our zoning code.
Airbnb.
And yeah, well, that there's part of that too.
Right.
But one of the things we're doing is trying to streamline the process of allowing farms to tap into those alternative sources of revenue, because it is such an important part of our community.
Absolutely.
That's great.
So now I've gotten the notification that we've run out of time. So I want to thank my guests, Eric Wellman, Tom Roy, and Susan Pribyson, as well as our station manager and director, Karen Handville, and editor, Patrick Fallon. And of course, thank you for watching. But allow me to say one thing before I close. I want to remind you that SCTV provides an incredible service to the community by televising town government meetings. It does it on a shoestring and depends on volunteers to operate the remote cameras in Town Hall and the new ones in the Terrifill room at the library. If you want to find out how to volunteer, contact Karen at 860-658-1720 or Karen@simsburytv.org. I'm Dominique Avery. See you next time for Simsbury Town News.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.